This is Jerry Mason, the Kickin Lawyer, and I'm inviting everyone to join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. on the Kickin Lawyer fan page on Facebook for Law Talk Live, where we discuss business, politics, current events, and the law. If you miss the live version, you can watch the playback on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast platform. All right, Jerry Mason, the Kickin Lawyer. We're here for another Law Talk. This one is pre-recorded, so it'll be a surprise when it comes out for me and you, I guess, the viewer. I want to remind you, if you haven't already, to follow us across social media and podcast platforms. You can follow us on follow, like, subscribe, share on any podcast platform or social media place: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, etc. Also, we're on TikTok. Josh is going to do dances one of these days. Also, we want to thank Michelle Allen. She's a longtime sponsor of the podcast. She donated our lovely mic stands that we have that are all fancy, and she's your go-to realtor in the area if you're buying, selling, renting real estate. If you want to become a Kickin Lawyer, just visit Mason's High Octane Martial Arts, located here in Covington since 1993. Be glad to have you. You go to masonsmartialarts.com. And, of course, the Cellar Restaurant Prohibition Bar opens at 4 o'clock every day, trivia on Tuesdays, live music on Fridays, great food and entertainment all the time, and that's located just off the square in Covington. And if you need any help with your online branding, digital presence, Masonite Digital Marketing is glad to assist you. Josh is there for you. I may not sound quite as peppy today because I'm not a morning person, and this is early for me. But I am excited to talk to our guest today because Mr. William Russell is an artist and seems to do, it looks to me from yesterday at least, a lot of comic stuff. And we were just talking about how Superman is the best superhero, and I'm a big Superman fan. So how you doing, sir?
I am doing good, man. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks for coming, man. Thanks. So we're in the middle of the convention. People will probably figure that out, the Covington Comic-Con. This is going to be a couple weeks after it, but we didn't want to waste the opportunity to speak to people like you that are so talented and so nice that they would come travel to, to meet the people of Covington and share what you do. So tell us what you do and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I am a published cover artist. I do retailer exclusives and stuff for Image Comics, Dynamite. I've done tons of indie projects. Last year alone, I had about 30 published covers. I do travel the Comic-Con circuit, pretty much all over, from Grand Island, Nebraska, down to Texas, over to Florida, and I've got to go to Baltimore, Maryland in a few weeks. But yeah, I definitely wanted to do more cons in Tennessee. I was born in North Mississippi, and I spent a lot of my time around Memphis and things like that. And I've known Covington. I've been out here a bunch of times when I used to do my insurance world prior to becoming an artist. So when I saw you guys were doing a Comic-Con here, I was booked somewhere else last year when I think when I first saw it, and but this one Josh and him caught me like right when I was doing some bookings and stuff, and told me about it after I sent him a PM. So I definitely wanted to come out and do it, and you guys put on one heck of a good show yesterday. The following you guys have here seems to be a really good up-and-coming event center. Like I said, with all the cons I've done and stuff like that, you guys had a great crowd for a Saturday, and especially as a new con. Last year, I think, was y'all's first year. But yeah, I've had a blast with it, man. But like I said, I've been doing comic covers for about 4.5 years now, and it's my full-time profession. And we just dropped my own creator-owned comic last month, Psycho Sal. So that has done extremely well in the indie market. Issue number 2 for that goes into Kickstarter next month. So it's been crazy so far. Really wild ride.
So I saw your stuff yesterday. You've got a lot of across the genre on comic book stuff and horror and lots of different stuff. And it was very good. I briefly came by, and I came by once. And you probably didn't recognize me because, it was this off-brand superhero budget Batman. But then I'm going to try today to have a little more time to actually look at some of your stuff. Because like I was saying, if you look in the office, what I do is everywhere we go, my wife and I, she knows we travel a lot for various things, whether it's lawyer training or whatever. And we own a martial arts school too, so we go around and do martial arts competitions. And so what I always do as I'm getting there is I'm looking up the comic book stores.
Yeah.
Or comic book stuff or whatever, and I like to go look. And then if I can find independent artists somewhere, like I especially like finding, like in Vegas, they'll have them on the street, and there'll be guys, super talented guys out there, just on the street doing sketches and stuff. So I like that original stuff. And then at every convention we do, I always try to get some commissioned or whatever. And I think especially now, what a lot of businesses, and we'll get your contact stuff up here too for folks, but people around here, a lot of them copy me, which is great. On my marketing. I do a lot of marketing stuff, right? So a couple years ago, I did a comic book, the Kickin Lawyer comic book. There's a cover hanging right there. And there was a local guy artist that we had. Well, there's now another guy that, that's the second printing. There's now another guy that does this generational wealth stuff, Rod Hickman. I'll give him a shout out. And he's got his comic book. And so we're going to do like a crossover thing. But my point is, I think a lot of businesses miss opportunities. This pop culture stuff is multifaceted. And so if they get someone like you that's very talented and can help them create something like that for businesses that might not even care about comic books or that kind of stuff, it crosses generational boundaries, and it's something that's very unique and memorable as a marketing tool. My point is, if anybody's watching on these business people around here that follow me on business stuff, I'm using this for twofold. One, it's branding. Everybody that gets it's got my brand on it. It also teaches kids a life skill. Mine does, because I have the martial arts stuff, so it teaches that. But then it's got ads in it. So like if you look on the back, it's got my that's my law firm, and then inside it's got my martial arts school right there. Yeah. So everybody sees it. So those are opportunities too that I don't even know if you've thought about. That even if you do just the covers to hang up for people, that's sketched out as an original of them as some kind of superhero. Yeah, it's a good spin on it.
I've done a few in the past. I mean, I've done logo designs and things like that for some people, and it's a great tool, especially the comic part of it. If you decide to, if someone takes what they do for a living and they hire a writer or they write it themselves or whatever, and they turn it into a comic, I mean, you're 100% right. It's a great advertisement tool, especially if you do it, that it's more of a kid-friendly style book, and then, with them reading it and getting into comics, I mean, you're also, getting kids to actually read, which is a great thing to do. You're also getting young people into art and comics and stuff, which is another great thing to do. I think a lot of parents today are too concerned with, I'm tired, so here's my phone, go play with it mentality. Yeah. And, and I think that's a great tool to kind of give them that. But like you said, it is something that will allow, as the kids are sitting there reading it or something, a parent picks it up, they see your advertisements. It could be something they actually read and get a kick out of. And then, of course, you can put multiple types of advertisement in the back and stuff like that, too. I mean, even when we did Psycho Sal for Kickstarter, there was a couple of tiers in there where people could purchase advertisement pages to put their business in my book. Yeah. And those sold out immediately. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a great marketing tool. Yeah. 100%. I mean, more businesses really need to give consideration to it.
Now, I get that your business now is that you're an artist for comic books and that type stuff, but were you a big comic fan, like growing up, or like what was your interest in that world when you were younger?
Yeah, I was definitely into comics as a kid, Uncanny X-Men and stuff like that.
So Marvel guy?
Yeah, I was. And oddly enough, it's really strange. Like when I was a kid growing up, and I don't know whether it's just the access of it, I grew up really poor and lived with my grandparents and stuff like that. And so our limitation of comics was what might be at the local drugstore when I was growing up in the 80s. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I collected comics heavily. I did it all the way through adulthood till I was probably in my 30s. Then I got busy with life and got busy with work and things like that. And I actually quit collecting for a long time. And about 15 years ago, I actually sold my entire collection. Just wasn't messing with it anymore. And then about 6 years ago, when I decided to become a comic artist and I started getting into that world, I started buying again, mostly slab books, Hulk 181s, ASM 300s.
You want to sell Hulk 181?
It's already gone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that one broke my heart.
I tried to buy it yesterday at the Marvin's.
I had a 6.5 slabbed blue label, Hulk 181. When I sold it, it was about a $3,000 book value at that grade. I sold it for like $2,800 to a friend. it wasn't 11 months later that book spiked to $8,000.
Man.
That broke my heart. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Spiked that hard that quick, and now that grade's like a $12,000
Yeah,
book.
no, I've been watching that one for like 2 years.
Yeah, it's
and
definitely
I
worth
should
buying.
have bought it. I had a chance to buy it in, I think it was in Orlando a couple years ago, and I just could. It was so much money at
Yeah,
the
it
time,
is.
but now it's worth so much more. But the problem for me, because this is what I was going to ask you, because I'm a big collector, right? And of a lot of stuff, like the table across from you on the far side, the Star Wars, the kid that was over there doing the Star, that's my personal Star Wars collection.
Oh, okay.
And it's so they're all shocked. My family's shocked because you would never think I would sell it. I'm a collector. I don't sell the stuff. And so I was like, man, I need to make room. My wife's upset I got all this because I got 30,000 comic books in our attic and house and all over. And I was like, you know what? The Star Wars is probably lowest on the line. Let's get rid of it.
Oh, so that was first appearance Wolverine?
Yep.
Yeah. Now, we know what we're talking about, Josh. Clearly, you're not as nerdy.
Yep, that is the
Yeah, I had to look it up. I didn't know.
that is the first full.
Yeah, correct. Because
appearance
actually,
of
180,
Wolverine
which I have,
is a cameo.
it's got him in the very back of it.
Yeah,
creeping
and now
around.
you in that one's a real raw one for the collector industry because anyone who knows how first appearances work in the Marvel universe, in order for a book to be a first full appearance, it has to be a full shot of the full body.
Mm-hmm.
Then on top of that, he has to interact with the story that's happening. So that's what throws a lot of people off because at the very last page of 180, there's a full shot of Wolverine. And a lot of people want to claim that's a first full appearance, but it's not because he didn't actually interact with the story. So there are rules to the game. But 9 times out of 10, the ones that are making that argument are the people who own a Hulk 180 but don't own a Hulk 181.
I own a Hulk 180.
So,
well, what I was going to ask you, though, is you sold your collection 15 years ago. Do you regret it?
not really. And well, part of me does, I guess, because it was something that I could have passed on to my daughters or something like that. Out of the stuff I was collecting, it was mostly Uncanny X-Men's, some of Marvel. Like I said, big Uncanny X-Men fan as a kid, and now for some reason I'm a big Batman fan. And so that changed for some weird reason, but it did. And so I don't necessarily regret getting rid of it, other than the aspect of maybe giving it to my daughter or something like that. Shelby's a big comic fan too, a huge Flash fan.
My son's a huge Flash fan.
Ah, okay. Yeah, she loves Flash. But now when I got rid of all my slabs a few years ago, because I probably had 60 slabs, and most of them were yellow label signed books. And like I said, ASM 129s, Hulk 181s, ASM 300s, stuff like that. That I regret getting rid of.
Now, yeah. Because if it was 15 years ago, it was probably before this big spike with Marvel books.
Well, no,
of
the slabs I bought in the last 4 years.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, they're continuing to go up.
Yeah.
The Marvel, if anything, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has helped at least key issues gain value in Marvel.
And it does have that. You can tell how it works, and that's why I don't get too excited about movie first appearances, because they do spike books, but after about 6 months after the movie comes out, they drop down. Now, they don't drop down to what they originally were, but they do drop down enough. That's like first appearance of Deadpool. I had that book. And prior to the movie, $150, $200 book raw. Then once the movie got announced, that $200 book spiked to an $800 book raw. And then about 6 months after the movie came out, it kind of dropped back down to around $500. And now I think, even at this point, I think you can still get that book for a really respectable price.
Yeah, he had New Mutants 98 yesterday. The Marvin's guy did, because I went over there and looked. He's got a whole bunch of slab. When he's saying slabbed, a lot of the people don't know comic book jargon. He's talking about when they're graded. There are two main companies, CGC, which has had some controversy recently that grades them, and then what's the other one?
CVCS.
Yeah, CVCS. Yeah. And what you do is you send the comic book off to them, and then these are supposed to be like judges, basically, that go in and grade the comic book based on this 0 to 10 scale. So the higher the grading, the more valuable the comic book is. And so a lot of times when you go to buy a comic book, especially a key issue, collectors look at if it was slabbed, graded, or ungraded, and a graded book is more valuable because it's been reviewed.
Yeah, there's no arguing it. There's no opinions, because grading, really and truly grading of a book. So like even with, this is what's considered raw, right? So I can sit and look at this book and I can come up with a grade on it of what I think it should be graded as. You can look at the exact same book and you're going to come up with a different grade. So when you do, and that's why I was buying slabs instead of raw, because sadly, just like used cars, everyone upsells what they think they have.
Yeah.
So I was buying raw books, and someone was claiming the quality of them were, 9.0s or 8.5s, and then I would get the book in, and even with my knowledge of what you're looking for on graded books, the books would be like 6.5s. I mean, and that's a huge difference from opinion.
Yeah.
I'm fine with a half a point off or even a full point off, but once it's like that 3-4 points difference, now you're just straight up lying to me. So that's why I switched and I started buying nothing but graded books, because it takes all of that opinion out of it. CGC and CBCS are the staple of graded books. That's who we trust to do the right thing, give the right grades, not show favoritism to certain retailers. That's a whole different ball game. But like I said, then what the book is worth. Again, there's no arguing it. No, this is a 6.5. This is a 7.0, and this is what it's worth. So it does make it easier in that aspect if you don't want to worry about someone being too off on their opinions when you're buying the books.
So what we were talking about before it started on the superheroes, and you hinted at it a minute ago, how you got into Batman. Why do you feel like you transitioned to Batman? What's your interest in Batman now?
I mean, I've always been a horror fan, and the creepy kind of stuff has always been my thing. And I guess Batman kind of fits a little bit more into that than some of the mutant stuff with X-Men or whatever. I always loved, I also love the fact that other than the insane training and the money, he is an average guy. Well, not average guy, but he's a regular guy, no superpowers. Just an extreme passion and a high IQ and tons of training and money. So all I got to do is win, $1 billion and I'll be set. But I don't know. I love the villains row because I like Batman, but I love the villains row of the Batman characters in the DC universe. I mean, Scarecrow, Solomon Grundy, and which Solomon Grundy is just kind of like a comic version of Frankenstein almost. So I think that's what kind of changed into it. And some of the best stories I've ever read were from that. Also, The Long Halloween, Hush. I mean, those are some of the best books.
I like the Dark Knight stuff too.
Yes.
I thought Frank Miller did a good job with that. When I was a kid, his art actually scared me. My father got me in 85, 86 in Millington, just up the road here. They used to have it's a big Navy place now, but it was even bigger in the 80s, and they had a comic book store. Anyway, he went down there, and I was big into comic, and that was a connection my father and I had. He liked Superman, I liked Superman, and I got into Batman there for a while when especially around 89 when the movie came out. Anyway, so my dad goes when that Dark Knight Returns first came out and got a signed, numbered hardcover edition.
Nice. That
I still have. Now, as a kid, I went through it a lot and looked at it, and so the pages it's not in great shape, but I wouldn't get rid of it anyway. But what I was getting at is, as a kid, I can remember that book scared me some. And I remember the battle between Superman and Batman, and that he was putting a whooping on Superman, and that was just scary to me that this guy could do that. So I went through a Batman phase, but I was telling Jeffrey Nobleman this. I might have been telling him that yesterday. So the guy you were on the panel with, so Jeffrey Nobleman, he was an animator for the Batman the Animated Series. I've had him on. I had him on last year during the Comic-Con, and we got in this discussion over Batman versus Superman. And my reasoning on why I'm a Superman guy, I think, is different than most people. But I always find it interesting how people – it's almost like you're one or the other a lot of times on the Batman-Superman thing. Yeah. So I find that very, very interesting. What I was going to say is one of the reasons I switched to being mostly all Superman is I had a little girl I was dating that I say cheated. She was like in second grade, third grade, who started liking this other guy that was like he said he was Batman all the time. Had the Batman shirts, and I was like, oh. I can't be Batman anymore.
That's the normal thing. Got to go with the bad guy.
Yeah.
The dark and mysterious.
Yeah, that is what Nodelman said that was interesting. He said that Superman to him was not an interesting character arc because it's very black and white with Superman. he's the good guy. He's going to do these things, and the only way to hurt him is maybe hurt the people around him.
Yeah.
He didn't find the stories interesting. Whereas
Yeah.
you're right. I think Batman does have some really good. It's almost like what do you call it? That detective noir or whatever. Type stuff.
Yeah, it's more like a lot of. If you read a lot of the older ones, it's more of a mystery style, like you said, a detective style book, and that's what I loved about the newest Batman movie.
I was just fixing to ask what you think of the new movie.
I absolutely loved it. I know a lot of people, a lot of fanboys were crying a river about it. But I mean, I'm a big believer that if you really want to go to these movies, you really do have to lock that inner fanboy up and watch it with some fresh eyes. And for it being a year one, and I liked it. I thought the kid, or the guy, not a kid anymore, but I thought he did a great job in it. I love the fact that they portrayed him as still angry, and I loved the detective aspect of it. They went back to the roots of what Batman was. And I do agree with you, like on the Superman thing. I think when you create someone that powerful and there's not a whole lot you can do with it, because he's going to behave a certain way and he can't really cross those lines, because if he does, where does he stop? And that's why I thought that was a really great take, like on the video game thing, with the way what was the name of it? I'm sorry. Wow, we're
the Arkham Knight.
No, I'm sorry. The one where the Joker killed Lois and Superman kind of went crazy.
Was that?
Oh, Injustice.
Injustice. Thank you. Yes. So I loved that storyline, seeing Superman just finally being pushed, and that really got interesting to me, to seeing how this was going to play out. So I really enjoyed it when they pushed the limits with him. And that's one of the great things I think about Batman is, and why a lot of people tend to love him is it is someone they can kind of, be similar to in a way, but it's one of those things where you kind of don't know what he might do. So I think that's also the interesting thing to it. And that's what I liked about the new movie, also going back to that, is when you're watching that, he's so angry, and it's still year one, and he's raw, and you don't really know exactly how far is too far that he's going to go. So I really did. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
Well, when I watched it in the theaters, I did not lock up my inner fanboy, and I didn't like it.
Yeah,
I'll be honest,
I didn't either.
I watched it last weekend again, and sort of did what you said, and I liked it then.
Yeah.
Like the second round, I put that aside, and I realized, I guess, what it was. I think the first time I was watching it for what I thought Batman was, and the second time I thought that it was a good detective story. Yeah. So I had a different view on it. I'm still not sold on Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, really. I don't know. He's almost too small to me. Yeah. I tell you, well, we could I ask this question too. My favorite Batman, shockingly, you would like to say Michael Keaton, because that sort of was my Batman growing up. But I really liked Ben Affleck as Batman.
Ben Affleck was incredible.
Yeah, I thought he looked the part. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, he did. And that's usually that's the way it goes with the Batman movies, with the actors. Either they make a really good Bruce Wayne, or they make a pretty cool Batman, but they can't seem to do both.
Yeah.
I think Ben Affleck did both.
Yeah.
I totally bought him as the billionaire Bruce Wayne, and I completely bought him as the 20 years in, angry,
veteran,
mad
Batman.
at everything because he's lost this and he's lost that. I absolutely loved him as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I loved the costume. Good God, man, it was such a great costume. And if you go back and you watch the extended version of like Batman v Superman, it definitely flows better. It's better than the theatrical for sure. Not to mention the same thing with the other movies. I don't know why Warner Brothers has this. They've had this weird mentality over the last 10 years. Like, they still think comic book movies are a fad. This isn't the 90s anymore. This isn't the 80s. It's not a one movie every 5 or 10 years. I mean, Marvel has 100% proven that this is here to stay. That, and because they have hit such a nerve with fandom, that it's not just the actual comic people that are addicted to these things now. The full-blown public that's never read a comic in their life are filling theaters to watch these movies.
Yeah, I think that DC was trying to catch up.
Yeah.
They just came to the game late.
Well, they're coming to the game with okay, guys, this is a fad. Let's throw out a movie real quick so we can get a piece of the pie.
Well, and then the other mistake I think they made, Marvel, what I think they did well, is they took what worked in the comic books. They took a comic book and made it into a movie
Yeah.
instead of trying to change it into this different take on a comic book.
Yep.
And so, the Captain America movie, he was Captain America. Even Thor, I was really curious how they would do Thor. And I know it's getting different reviews on this recent one, which I liked. I kind of like it, the campy Thor. But anyway, I thought they did a great job. I mean, he's an Asgardian god.
Yeah.
How you gonna spin that? I thought they did. And then Guardians of the Galaxy, that was like a
great movie.
D-list comic book for a
Yeah.
lot of folks, is one of the top level ones.
I mean, most of the people in comics don't even really
No,
know who Guardians
yeah.
of the Galaxy is or care 2 cents about it.
Yeah.
But now, I wasn't super fond of the second Guardians movie, but that first one,
yeah.
incredible. And the first Thor movie I thought was really good. The second one I didn't mind too much; it was okay. But Ragnarok,
Yeah, Ragnarok I've watched
Holy
multiple
heck.
times.
Such a great
That I
movie.
think is one of the best in the Marvel universe.
I think so too.
It's very good. What did you think of? Have you watched Sandman yet?
Yes.
Okay.
I binge watched that whole thing on one day when I only meant to watch like 2 or 3
I
episodes.
figured you'd like it because you said you like the horror genre, and it kind of fits into some of that.
Yeah, and
so.
shockingly, I've actually never read Sandman.
I've never read
So
Sandman.
now I'm going to go buy the books
Yeah.
because the show did do a really great job on it.
Preacher did that for me. I had not read the Preacher books. Walking Dead too.
Yeah.
I watched it, liked it, started reading the comic books, and the same thing with Preacher.
Yeah, they've done a lot of great shows. I mean, again, I know not everything's going to be a home run, and that's one thing I try to tell my fans and followers is when it comes, whether it's Marvel movies, DC movies, TV shows, you have to go watch this stuff and support it because you want them to continue to make these things. Now, I understand that everything's not going to be great, and there's going to be things they're going to do that's going to upset you. But you got to show the support because even if it's a character you have no interest in. I mean, Captain Marvel, I had no interest in going to watch that movie, especially after the snide comments and stuff she's made about people and behavior. But I still went to the theater to see it because I want to support the industry because that means the more they do, they'll eventually get to the ones I want to see. And it looks like that small part is going to play out because, even though I'm not a Fantastic Four fan and I could live the rest of my life and never see another Fantastic Four movie and I'd be a happy camper. But I do love some of the storylines from the Fantastic Four. They had some of the best. So now we've got a Fantastic Four movie that's supposed to be coming, which means I'll finally get to see Doctor Doom, hopefully, in the MCU done the right way. So you got to show the support. I mean, you got to. We're at a time to where nerds rule.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the cool kids now.
I agree that another thing that you glanced on earlier that's considered nerdy but shouldn't is like you were talking about kids reading. So my kids, and I think we're probably around the same age as we're talking. I'm 43.
Yeah, I'm 40, 45, 46?
Oh, so
something
you're a little
like that.
older. So you
I'm
look,
old.
you look good, yeah.
I'm old.
And I've got 4 kids. My
Yep.
oldest is, and I'm excited because he just came in last Friday. He's in the Navy and he's here now for 2 weeks. So I've got my 23, 24-year-old, 22-year-old, 21-year-old, and a 17-year-old. And I had them over there. The boys were over there. They get commission off what they sell on my Star Wars toys, so they're all across from me all over there doing that. But anyway, the older one that's in the Navy is a huge Flash fan since he's little, and I don't even remember why it became that way. I was a huge, just like now, comic fan, and always wanted my kids to read. So and we didn't have a lot of money when they were growing up. So what I would do though is I would always get them books, and so at night they couldn't play video games or any of that, but they could stay up late as they wanted as long as they were reading. So we have literally a library in this entry room in our house, and they could read whatever. And I would, when they were little, I'd read to each one of them every night. Even if it was a different book, because Jade would want a princess book or whatever, and my daughter. Anyway, I'd go around each one and read for 10, 15 minutes to each one of them. So they all read still, and which is great to see. I haven't met you officially, but I assume you're the daughter over here. Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's Shelby. That's my oldest daughter. I'm in the same boat. I got 4 girls. So.
Oh man. So I've only got one. I got 1 girl and 3 boys. But I could imagine my daughter was I won't say that because she watches it occasionally. But anyway, so Alex though had this affinity for Flash, and he used to run around in a Flash outfit. And so growing up, he would get every year for Christmas. I gave him some kind of Flash doll. I still would have a subscription for the Flash comic books, so he's got them even though he may not know it. I keep them all for him.
Yeah.
And even with now going into the Navy, I still do that. But you're talking about how we've got to support the movies and everything, and I just don't know why they can't get Flash right. Like even Superman, the
Well,
DC. Why can't they?
It looked like they were about to, and then the actor
I
went
don't
off
know,
the
man.
rails.
I disagree. So let me get your take on this, and Shelby
Yeah.
can chime in too. You got it, the Justice League, right? We were so excited we were finally going to have Flash, and I don't really care the drama with outside of the movie with Ezra Miller or whatever.
Yeah.
But the way they even had him run, and I know they explained that he's running on the Speed Force sliding, but he looks, come on, man, just have the dude run.
It was so cringy, and because I mean, even if you go back to the '80s in the Flash show on TV. That running was better than what they did with him.
So.
This whole weird flailing of his arms thing, it was, I don't know what they were thinking with that. And now, to be fair, like if you go back and you watch the Snyder Cut,
Now it's better.
they did tone it
better,
down a little.
yeah.
I don't know how they did it, but they did tone that down a little. So it is a little less cringy. It's not as noticeable. But yeah, that made my daughter so mad. She was so angry.
I can't
But-
watch it
Yes.
Did you watch the Snyder Cut?
Mhm.
You didn't like it?
Nope.
I thought it was better.
because of him. It messed
Yep.
it up
I
all
hate
for
it.
me.
Yeah, that's what my son said. He was so disappointed that the Grant, is it Gustin?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one that most people really
He-
love.
it- that's a
TV
good.
show
That
right
show
now.
was.
my favorite.
Yeah, that did well. I thought that he did all right. And
Yeah.
I like that they brought in the dude from the '90s
Yep.
show in.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, the
as
Flash
his
show,
dad.
like I used to watch it hardcore. I mean, I watched Arrow when it was on
Yeah, I
TV.
did too. Same
Yeah.
thing. And then it kind of fell off
Well,
for me.
what happened, the same thing happened with Flash. I watched Flash until we're teen 30, 40 people Flash.
Yeah.
Once you take a individual character and you got his 2 or 3 support casts, and then all of a sudden you turn it into a football field of people, it's no longer fun for me. I don't, and then the writing of the way they handled Iris, that irked me tremendously. One minute you're high school or something, next minute you're serving coffee, 5 minutes later now you're a high-end reporter in this news thing, and now all of a sudden you didn't want anything to do with him until you found out he was Flash, which kind of falls back to the life experiences of you didn't want nothing to do with me till you found out I have money. All that type of writing just irked me really bad because it takes away from what the character is, because in the comics the Iris and Flash relationships, an incredibly good relationship.
Yeah.
It is none of that, oh, I'm just here because you're wearing the red suit. None of that BS. And but like I said, once you overpopulate it, it gets really dull for me. It's too much you're trying to put into these things. And and they did the same thing with Arrow. I really enjoyed that show until the cast just became way too much.
Yeah, I think another thing they did is I don't know that they intentionally did this, but this is the correlation I make. In the 80s, I can remember 80s, early 90s, the comic books would do a lot of crossover stuff amongst books. And the problem for me as a kid, because I did the same thing you did. Every day, my mama would give me $2 for lunch, okay, if I was lucky. And I would have, I think it was either $2 or $1.80 something. Anyway, I had like 90 cents left over every day. And we would go buy this corner store up here just around from where we're doing the Comic-Con, right? It was a Roper's grocery store, and it had a turnstile, get your comic books.
Yep.
She'd let me run in there, and I get one comic book, right? And it was almost every day, every other day or so. And that's literally how I developed my collection. So the problem was I read these, and then when they do these crossovers, now I got to find this other book to get this piece of the story. And it just got to the point, I didn't like the crossovers like that. I know what they did them for. They did them for sales and introduce the other character. I get it.
Yeah.
But I think that the DC TV shows were trying to do something similar. You got to go watch this one, get this piece, and and then I just stopped. Not necessarily didn't like the stories or it was too confusing.
I have
to
a
keep
little
up
fear
with.
that the MCU may be heading that direction with all the Disney Plus shows, and it's starting to become almost too much.
I don't
content.
disagree, but the only difference is it's easily accessible right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess arguably you could do that with most of the DC because I'm on HBO Go, so I
Yeah.
watch the shows.
Yeah, it's definitely a different ballgame being the TV stuff because we have such easy access to the different platforms and everything. But I do agree with him. I think Marvel might be looking at it too much about how much money can we milk out of this. And I mean, I understand your
Well, it's
business.
really Disney now.
Right, that's right.
So you
yeah,
know what's
Disney.
coming, yeah.
We're gonna have a bunch of princess crossovers.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand your job is to make money, But I feel the same way. I think they're kind of throwing a little bit too much out, and it's kind of flooding the market. And when you do that, you do kind of push people away to a degree. People kind of get bored with it, because when you start trying to force everything, that's when you end up with weak writing, weak character, development. You end up with weak casting. I think they should stick to just a couple of key things. Like, I think the Loki spinoff was a good idea, even though I am so burnt out on companies trying to turn what's technically bad guys into good guys just because the crowd likes them.
Yeah.
I really hate that. I hate the way they did it in the X-Men movies with Mystique, and then I hate the way they've kind of done it with Loki. Loki's meant to be mischievous and just devilish all the time, and anything he's doing, it's for an end result for him.
Yeah.
So and you can still do that, and it still be a crowd favorite. You don't have to kind of turn them into the good guys. I think they should stick to just some key characters, and not just completely look at it as how much money can we milk out of this extra stuff. But
Well, so on you said, talking about storylines and whatnot and things that influence you and how these other companies do their development, and you've developed your own book though.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Well, Psycho Sal is about a serial killer in New Orleans during the 1980s. And obviously, being an 80s baby, it's one of my favorite generations, whether it be movies, music, comics. They were some of the best things that came out of the 80s, as far as I think. But the way what makes Psycho Sal really interesting is the way it's being written and the way we're handling the killer. Normally, in the normal scenarios with serial killers, they all fit a certain mentality and profile of how they kill, who they kill, things like that. With Psycho Sal, we threw all that out the window. So not only is Psycho Sal killing any type of person, no matter their backgrounds or color or sex or anything like that, every single murder is a different type of murder. And the only reason that they even know it's a serial killer is just because of a painting that he leaves at every one of the crime scenes, which is a recreation of the murder scene. He leaves that and a voodoo card. And the other thing that is going to make the book incredibly different than anything that's out there, and so far on number one, it was a huge hit on Kickstarter, which we did about almost $7,000 on Kickstarter. And that's huge for a brand new comic. Also in a smaller niche market of horror thriller type department. So that's big in itself. But we also did that off of $7, $6 books. Now, normal Kickstarters, when they do their books, they're $30 covers, $40 covers, etc. Because we always have 4 or 5 guest artists that do covers with us also. But they'll charge $40 and $50, sometimes $30 and up for these books. We did it off $6 and $8 books. And the reason we did that is we wanted the Kickstarter itself to be affordable for everyone. So people could try the book that may have never read horror and feel like they haven't spent a lot of money to try it if they didn't like it. So being able to do $7,000 Kickstarter off of those small numbers, price-wise for the books, was incredibly huge. So it did great for the Kickstarter. And so far, all the feedback we've gotten on it has been incredibly good. But the other thing that's going to make it interesting and really set it apart is it's a 9-issue series on the first part. And the first 3 books are being written from the perspective of the 2 FBI agents working the murders. Then the next 3 books, 4, 5, and 6, will be written from the perspective of one of the victims. So you're going to follow through her weeks and everything up to what happens. You're going to see her go from this bubbly, happy, person to, as she starts feeling more and more claustrophobic, like someone's following her, someone's watching her. She comes home and finds things misplaced in her apartment. Then she thinks someone's been there and things like that. So you see this decline because he's not someone that just takes you and does whatever. I mean, he really just mind messes with you the entire time until he takes you. And then the last 3 books will actually be written from the perspective of the killer. So you're going to go through his mindset, how he sees the world, how he sees the victims, things like that. And we're actually using 3 different writers for it too. Because not only do we want you to know that it's a different perspective, but when you read the wording, the entire interaction with all the characters, we want you to feel like it's a different person. And the way you do that is by changing writers.
Yeah.
So we're going to have 3 different writers on the books too. And that is, like I said, it's so far. And remind me, I'll give you guys a copy of the book. I would love for you guys to read it. Give me some reviews on it too. We do appreciate honest reviews on it. But so far, we have not heard a bad review. So.
Is that your preference, is to do like the horror genre art, or?
I mean, I love, like someone asked me that question, actually a similar question at the show yesterday on the panel. And I know this is going to sound cliche, and this was the answer I gave them. Like, for me personally, if I'm drawing something for my own time, what little free time I get, if I draw something, I usually want to draw something that's horror related, something that's creepy. That's just, I grew up on. I mean, my first movie I ever saw was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when I was 7 years old. And I've been hooked on horror ever since. All 4 of my daughters are big horror fans. But when it comes to just art in general, when it comes to commissions and things like that, it doesn't matter to me. I don't have a preference. My most requested commissions are usually Venom or The Bat Who Laughs, because everybody seems to really enjoy the way I draw those 2 characters, because it's those characters, but it's a little bit more of a horror feel to them. But and like I said, this is going to sound cliche, but it's whatever they come up and ask me, because it's the end result. It's when they come back to pick up the piece and I see that reaction on their face. That is one heck of a drug. It is very addicting to see someone just be that excited over something you did for them.
Yeah.
So that at that moment, that becomes the character I wanted to draw because of that reaction I get from the fans. And I know that sounds so cliche or whatever, but or whatever, whatever you want to call it, but it really is. It's what they want is what becomes my favorite character for that moment.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. That's cool. Yeah, so how do people, if they want your book or to maybe get commissioned art or any of that, how do they get a hold of you?
I'm actually only 2 platforms. I won't be on TikTok or any of that other stuff. I read the user agreement, and nope, I will not be there.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. You can find me Art of William Russell on Facebook, or just my name on there. I've got my personal page, and then I have the art group. And you can use at Latimer12, so LATOMIER12. You can use at Latimer12 on Instagram or Facebook, and you can find me on either platform. I do take commissions. Now, my commissions only open up twice a year. The commission list for the second half of the year is open at the moment. I think I only have 2 spots left. That's my mail away commissions. I always do pre-show commissions for cons. So any con I go to, about a week before that con, I'll open up pre-shows, and I only take about 4 or 5 spots. Because 9 times out of 10, I'm at cons by myself. So I am still in that mindset where, for me, the fans are what matter. And I don't want to be sitting at a table with my face buried in work.
Yeah.
I think that is extremely rude. So I'll only do like maybe 3 or 4 commissions a day at a con. Usually headshots only, just so I can get them done and out of the way, because I want to be able to, when fans walk up to my table, I stop what I'm doing and I can sit and talk to them, whether they need 5 minutes to talk or whether they need 20 minutes to talk. I want them to get their money's worth, because if it were not for the fans buying my stuff, coming to the show to see me, there's no show. I think a lot of artists today lose sight of that with this "where's my limo from the hotel" mentality. And matter of fact, I actually have a shirt that says, "You should check your ego. You draw comics. You don't storm beaches." I've worn that to a few cons.
Yeah.
I think their heads get too big, because I've personally walked up to some of the artists' tables and barely got a hi. And I mean, I'm a type of person, I would have bought from your table. I collect art. So I think artists need to keep that in mind. I do believe that the whole convention thing is a trifecta where we need all 3. We need you guys doing Comic-Cons. We need the fans coming to the show, but we also need the vendors, the artists, and creators that buy the tables that help make that show possible. So it's one of those things, when a fan walks up, I want to be able to stop what I'm doing and give them however much time they need to talk.
Yeah.
Because some, again, 2 or 3 minutes, ask a couple questions, and they on their way. And then you got some people that they really want to stand there and interact and kind of get to know you a little, and I think they deserve it.
Yeah. Well, I respect that, and I really appreciate you coming. I mean, as you know, we discussed before we started, we are on a budget, if you call it that, with the Covington Comic-Con, and Covington is a little lucky in that it's me, Josh, and Tara, because none of us are trying to break the bank on it. We're just really trying to build something that's, we want people to come to our community more, and we love this culture. We love this sort of a subculture, subgenre, and we want people to get a taste of it. Like we were saying, a lot of the people that have come locally, they didn't even know how these panel things work and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a learning curve, but it is growing. This year, I think, was bigger than last year. Of course, this is airing later, but it is Sunday, so we'll see this afternoon how things go, but I think it'll be good. But again, like Josh said in the beginning, we view you guys as the lifeblood of the comic convention. If you're not willing to go, or at least not willing to be understanding at these beginning level ones, then these fans will come and they could become lifelong fans for conventions and comics and whatnot. And if there's not people like you there, and it is a comic convention, even though now they've evolved into all this other stuff. Yeah. So for me personally, when I first went, Josh was going for years. My very first one, Josh was setting up. He does independent movies and stuff, and he would go. And I kind of made fun of him, and it was like, I won't dress up or any of that kind of stuff. And then I'm a closet nerd, or was. So anyway, I went, and I was looking for comic books. And so the very first one we went to didn't really have a lot of comic books.
Probably
and then,
one of the early Memphis.
But my point is, I went comic convention looking for comic books, and then there weren't comic books at that one. Yeah. So I always want to make sure at ours it's a good mix. Yeah. We've got comic artists, we've got pop culture stuff, you got horror stuff, you got actors, you got all this different stuff. So I think we did okay doing a decent mix of stuff.
Yeah, I think you guys had a great setup. I mean, I love the fact that you guys did cosplay for the kids. I love the fact that you guys did cosplay for adults also. I love not to mention the attention you guys showed to everyone that was there. Because I promise you, I've been to tons of cons, and we've never seen a volunteer walk by to see if we needed anything. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're supposed to be there for, is to go by, make sure anyone at the table doesn't need to go to the restroom, because again, a lot of us are by ourselves.
We sort of had a meeting and training on that, and I'm glad you said that, and because I want to make sure the volunteers know we appreciate them too. They're not making any money. Nope. They were all there. Man, there's one guy that volunteered. He'll be there today. He is a senior master chief, highest ranking enlisted guy in the Navy, and I didn't realize this till this week, because my son, who's in the Navy, was upset that I even spoke to this guy, right? But he's getting ready to retire. He's going to be in our community, and so he's just trying to make contacts and do things to help. And this guy yesterday was bringing pizza. He was changing the garbage. And I was even like, Chief, I'm calling him Chief now. I'm like, Chief, look, he's like, look, man, I make hard decisions all day, every week. He said, I'm glad to just go and, tell me to do this, and I'm just going to do it, and it's an easy day for me. But my point was, we have great volunteers that helped and came around and checked on everybody. And that's, again, part of the lifeblood of the comic convention, is we have people that are willing to help.
Yeah. And that's something that I do. One of your volunteers, I can't remember the young lady's name, but she came by several times. I gave her a signed print for free. And I always tell that if you guys have volunteers that are there and they're actually doing what volunteers are supposed to be doing, feel free to send them by my table. I will give them a free signed print every single time.
Well, we appreciate that, but we could also pay you for those.
No.
Because you got to make money too. It's okay.
I'm not. I gave away prints yesterday to small kids and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like I said, man. It's. I make my money. I'm fine. I'm not sweating that at all. I enjoy seeing the reactions on people's faces, because again, you get some families. I know what it's like to, be a young family and have 3 or 4 kids, and you go to a con and you really can't buy tons of stuff. Trust me, I know that feeling well. And I'm not saying anybody's looking for handouts or anything. I don't mean it that way. This is me choosing to do. So if I see some kid that is just looking at, something, I can tell they're really attached to something they're seeing on my wall, I give it to them. It's not a big deal. But I try to do the same thing for volunteers too, for, like I said, the volunteers that will come by and check on us. Yeah. Because again, it's sad to say that is extremely rare.
Well, we've done and Josh, you don't let me go too long here because obviously we're
we
very
do.
like-minded, and I'll talk all day. To
Yeah,
him.
we do probably need to wrap it up soon, though. 'Cause
But
we'll have to
I
get
did
back
want
over
to
to
say
that.
that. So I have a history. I've promoted a bunch of stuff. I've promoted martial arts tournaments, MMA fights, done a whole bunch for years, promoted different events. So we have a lot of experience with where you need people strategically. So like, for example, Wayne Eccles was a student of mine, a martial arts student, and that boy stood by this one door that we were trying to control people. We didn't want people to come in through. They had to go in through the one door. He literally just stood there the whole day. I kept coming around checking on him. He was like, I'm good. Finally, towards the end, he's like, my feet are hurting a little bit. I was like, we're going to rotate you out. But I mean, that he served a great purpose.
Yeah.
It was very important because it controlled flow of people. Yep. And don't want to underrate that. And then we had 4 or 5 that we had run into the vendors. And anyway, I won't keep on them. And then the ticketing up front, my wife was there and had 3 or 4 people that helped that with the T-shirts and the ticketing. And it went a lot smoother, I think, than last year. So anyway,
Yeah,
but
it was great, man.
but
Like
it's.
I said,
I hope you're on the circuit much more than me.
Yeah.
So please tell other vendors that you had. I hope you had a good time.
Oh, dude,
and
I had
we'll
a
try to take care of them because we're gonna try to do it every year.
Yeah. I hope you guys do, man. Like I said, you guys did wonderful. I will definitely be back next year.
Cool. Well, man, I enjoyed talking with you. We'll have to talk more.
Yeah, definitely. And next time I'm in town, I'll be happy to come on. But yeah, as far as the con in general, I think you guys did beautiful. I really did. Like I said, especially the attention to the detail, checking with people, seeing if they needed anything. The fact your volunteers actually came around to see if we needed, anything at all. That was incredibly well done. I mean, I think you guys did a beautiful, especially the promoting. Like a lot of cons I've been to, they seem to forget that the people, vendors, artists, creators that are buying tables to be at said cons, you'd be surprised how many of them don't promote everybody. If you're not some superstar up here at the very top, your name doesn't get mentioned on their social media. So the fact that you guys took time, you promoted everyone that's coming to your show, whether it's a guest or whether it's a paid vendor or a creator, that's a huge deal to us. I promise you, that's a huge deal. And then the fact that you guys promoted consistently. Like constantly promoting stuff on Facebook and social media. That is so important. And sadly, there's a lot. So if you guys haven't done Covington Comic-Con, definitely try to come out and do it next year. I promise you it's 100% worth it. The people are incredible. They're absolutely sweet. The promoters and everything that put on the show. And of course, I thank you guys for having me for the event and everything. But I will definitely be back next year.
Cool.
Thanks, man. We really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, we worked hard on it. And there's some of those things you mentioned are kind of what we do in our other jobs. Like we're marketing and branding and things like that. We tend to be decent at. But and we have multiple businesses that we run, and you just run it like a business. But you got to remember, you got to take care of the people. That's very important. Well, anyway, William, I enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for coming out. You could have been on too. Could have talked about Flash.
We'd still be here tomorrow if you got her on her rant about Flash. Oh my God, that upset. She was so mad in the theater. I took her to the theater to see that.
That's
movie.
how my son was.
She was angry.
He was upset. You have to talk to Alex about it. He'll be there today.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Y'all can. Yeah, there's your bonding comfort buddy for Flash. Y'all can start your own support group and everything.
Yeah, he was very frustrated. Well, I've enjoyed talking with you, man. Me and you could be buddies and talk about it all day. After the con today, I assume y'all are going back, but if not, we could always go to the cellar. I'll get you a beer.
Actually, sadly, we've got to head back as soon as the con's over.
Yeah.
We've got to pick our son up, my grandson. But we actually went to the cellar last night.
Okay.
Did
you enjoy it?
Man, dude, I've eaten in a lot of places across the West Coast and East Coast and everything, and that was without a doubt one of the best steaks I've had in a long time.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I do think we do the steaks really, really well. And it's it's a little secret in this area that, people around here locally kind of know, but there's a lot, and that's what I enjoy anytime you travel. If you can go, especially small towns, there's a lot of gems that are hidden that you may not know.
That's my favorite ones. I tell my daughter all the time, when I go to any city, the first thing I look for is those hole in the wall, mom and pop kind of places or anything like that. I am not going to eat somewhere I can eat at home. Yeah. So that was an extremely, extremely good find. So.
Cool. Well, appreciate all the support, you guys coming out. And I thank everybody for watching. Obviously, this is after the Covington Comic-Con, but that's what we've been talking about. Obviously, next year we're going to have it, but you can go to the Facebook page and Instagram and follow us, the Covington Comic-Con. And, of course, go to William Russell's stuff on Facebook and Instagram. Give him a follow and check out his stuff. And like I said, if you're a business, reach out and he can do some commissions for you, things like that are good promotional stuff. Josh is running through our lower thirds there. You can follow us on across social media and podcast platforms on TikTok. We want to thank Michelle Allen, longtime sponsor of the show. She's your go-to realtor in the area to buy, sell, rent real estate. And, of course, Mason's High Octane Martial Arts, been open since '93. I'll teach you to kick people in the face. It's a lot of fun. And then the Cellar Restaurant, 1920s themed Prohibition restaurant located here in Covington. And I always like when you do that, Josh, because then you got my head
your head
just
floats across. Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll see you at the Cellar. I'm there almost every other night. And then, of course, Josh will help you with your branding presence online at Masonite Digital Marketing. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Remember, we're live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. So keep kicking. Thanks for watching, guys. Just remember that this is not legal advice or investment advice or business advice. This is for fun and entertainment purposes only.